Good morning. Welcome. This is Hampton B. Allen Library. We're visiting in the home of William Porter, aka Mickey, and it's Diane Welch and Caroline Hightower behind the camera. And thank you. I've been trying to get Mickey to well, I wanted him to come to the library. So then he wouldn't do that. So I said, could we come to your house and see some of the awesome things that you do? Because he can really do so many things, and he's going to share some of that with us this morning. Mickey, we just talk a little bit about your background, about your work.
Okay. All right. Well, I think what got me started in kind of music when I was in service, even going back to maybe 1962, I had an old flat top guitar. Well, I was listening to Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs, and I liked the sound of the dobro guitar, but didn't know what it was then until later, we started watching them on the show. And the guy, I'm trying to think of his name now, I think it was Joe Honeycutt. He's a local musician. He was good. And he was over there visiting my uncle, and he showed me how to tune the guitar. I didn't know how you tune it, and didn't realize you had to raise the strings up because your strings are not touching any frets on, like a steel guitar. It's just your bar. And he showed me a few things, but then when I went in service, I still like listening to music, bluegrass and stuff. And when I come out in 1968, I started looking for dobro. Well, dobros at the time they hadn't been made in quite a few years, and I looked high and low, but I couldn't find one. And also was interested in the banjo, and I finally got a hold of a banjo. You know Vic Lowry?
Yes.
Okay, Vic Lowry, and if you got his contact, I need to get it from him. Anyway, I bought a banjo from Vic Lowry, and a musician, and he's a master repairman at Charlotte Claremont Ward. He's dead now, but anyway, he made the neck for this particular banjo, and I was thinking the other assembly was made by Gibson, but it wasn't. He made the whole thing, and I looked at it. I said, I said I can make that. That's something that I can do, and I just looked at it and knew I could do it, and so I went up there and paid him a visit, and he's one of the guys didn't mind sharing information with you. A lot of people won't show you stuff, or either they'll show you stuff and it's wrong, to kind of lead you wrong. But he did. He showed me some things, and so I come back home and I bought me a scroll saw to cut these inlays out with, and so after I started cutting them, there was demand. There wasn't but just a few people in the whole United States in 1969. That's when I started my little mail order business. Was doing these inlays, and they were reproduction of inlays that was done back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and the current companies wouldn't use it because it was labor intensive. Of course, now they've got CNC machines and laser cutters and all that, and of course, my method of doing it now compared to that is obsolete because you can't do this stuff on production. Like a CNC machine, you don't take a vacation, you don't have to take a break or nothing and all that. And so I got started in it. And some of this material here, I looked at the box. I've had some of this material. I must be a pack rat. That's 1972.
Wow.
Right. All this stuff right here in these boxes here, and that's abalone pearl right here when you look at it. It's all, abalone shell.
Wow.
And the same thing with the mother of pearl, that's oyster shell.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And that's what it is. And when I would get it, I'd try to find the stuff that was. Here's a good example. If you see that, if you get the light, you see the iridescent colors.
Yes.
Right. Okay. That's what I like. In other words, if I can get that and use it on my stuff, that's to me that's the best of the best. But most of the time you don't get that. You get stuff like this kind of stuff here, all that would be seconds to me because it's got what I call fish eye, places in it that's not good.
Right.
And so there was a guy, and so when I would cut this stuff, I would use this balsa wood as a backing to the material. But when I first started out cutting it with something like a little jeweler saw hand frame, and these blades, these are small. These are small blades. I don't even know where you can really photograph them and see them. But this is the blade I use most of the time because it's bigger and it leaves a good leaves a good cut in there. And so once I started cutting these designs, I went ahead and put me together. In fact, James Brothers put me together a catalog, and then I mailed it out. And we had 2 or 3 companies, Bluegrass Unlimited. They catered to all the bluegrass musicians, and there was another outfit called Mugwumps. And so I advertised on them, and so the orders started coming in, and that was in 1969. But now I was doing that and doing some guitar repairs and stuff at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But cutting these inlays was, that was my bread and butter of what I was doing.
Right.
There was more demand for that.
Right.
That's not my original design. I had a guy let me use his design to put on that collar. I liked it. I just liked it for some reason or another.
Right.
But all the basically designs and stuff I did, except for that one on my dobro and my banjo, that design I created myself.
Wow.
And this logo here, that Script Porter logo, I did a rough sketch of it right there, something like that. And then there was a commercial artist or draftsman over in the eastern part of the state that sent it to him, but he sent it back, but I wasn't satisfied with it. And I said, that's not exactly what I want, but he sent me 4 or 5 different things, and I said, I know what I want. But anyway, here's what I did to get my logo like I wanted. And that was it blown up. And you make this stuff and blow them up. Well, then that's my logo. That's my logo there. That was actually, I hand cut that.
You did it.
Yeah, I hand cut that with and that's a piece of aluminum I mounted on there. So that's my logo that I used on my guitar and banjo stuff.
Right.
And then,
so, Mickey, how many did you do?
Well, as far as completed instruments on my particular pattern, I did 14 patterns, but as far as making complete instruments, I've only done 2.
Okay.
Complete instrument. I would, when I made stuff, I'd do the necks. I had molds to do the wood part on the back called resonator, and then the wood rim inside. I had the stuff to make that. But I was into selling and making individual components, and I did the metal work. And I did metal stampings too, and I had a company in Charlotte that did some 60-ton stampings for me. I couldn't do them, and I did some smaller stampings at home for banjos.
Wow.
And all that was reproduction stuff was made back in the 20s. And nobody had it at the time, but then around about 73 or so, 73 to 72, 73, we had a recession back in there. You probably remember it. We had a bad recession. Well, then at that time, Gibson, they started reproducing these patterns again that they made back in the 20s and 30s. Well, when they started doing that, they was getting them made over in Japan, and they were getting metal parts made, retailing them cheaper than I could buy the raw materials. So things kind of went downhill from then on, and so I hung in there till with the music stuff until about I'd say about 1978. And I knew it was I had to do something, and so I had a chance to sell all my inventory and all my equipment and everything,
and so then, did you start on the turkey calls?
No, I didn't start on the turkey call. What I did then, I went to work with the North Carolina Department of Correction, and somewhere around, I don't know, that was 79. Well, I was into some hunting, and I bow hunted. I love bow hunting. I think Henry loves bow hunting too. So I love bow hunting. Well, I couldn't find a stand that I got one, and one company, one of the first ones that offered them for sale, that was a death trap. You go up a tree, if you step too close to the tree, that thing starts sliding down the tree. I was getting my stomach up many times.
Very dangerous.
Right. And so I said, well, I'm going to try to come up. So I went ahead and made a good bow hunting stand, and I ended up getting 2 patents on it. Yeah. And that's the longest I stayed. I think at one project I went from 1986, it might have been a little, but I was selling them by 1986, and I sold them up into 2000, and I sold Danny Dees and his boys the rights to those patents, and I sold them all the tooling. I did all that stuff right in here. It was all metalworking stuff, welding and stuff. And but that's probably the longest I've ever stayed on a project, from 86 to 2000. Well, somewhere around, I don't know, 2004 or 5, and I was starting to bow hunt. I was still bow hunting, and started getting into turkey hunting. And so boys taught me and said, "Hey, you ought to build a turkey call." And you know, and I actually sent around to all your big makers, and I bought one of their calls, this and that. And I looked at them, used them for kind of like a prototype, but I didn't copy any of them. I said, I think I can come up with something different that'll still do the same thing. And I was gonna see. Now here, these are some right here that right here and there, and all that's done with there ain't really no hand work on there. I mean, it's all done by jigs, fixtures, and tools and stuff. And see, it's clean. Every one of them is going to be that same thing like that. And that's kind of getting ready to finish it up and stuff. And these like here has that wood.
It's beautiful.
Wood perfect. And that's a piece of figured walnut right there. This particular one here. And but now the place where I got this stuff from Germany, it used to be West Germany. Well, it turned into Germany, Erlangen, and the guy been getting that stuff on for years. He no longer offered it for sale. So I got all these calls here with nothing, but I probably got about 100 of these finished calls. But I have given away 20 to 1 to what I've sold. I give them some kid or something starting. Somebody want one. I used to donate them to the NWTF chapter, but I quit doing that because when you go to these chapters, they would have a bar set up, and you know you had to be big high turkey hunters and duck hunters, you know a little more higher up on the income, and they would offer these drinks to inebriate them, and they would be bidding against themselves. And, you know, had the price go up. So I said,
yeah. You just didn't want to be a part of that.
I said, I'm not going to donate nothing to them no more. So I quit donating to them. They would actually have literal barmaids coming in there, going around serving the drinks into them. That wasn't my cup of tea.
That wasn't for you.
That
now, these, would you demonstrate?
Yeah. I think I don't have some chalk. It's probably got enough to listen to. That's one. I've got one here to show you about anything that make a sound. This was some kind of old piece of junk I was making here, and I put the thing in there and turned it upside down. Well, I didn't see this, so I went ahead and made 2 router cuts. So I said, wait a minute, what's going on here? And what it is, I just said, well, I'm going to see if that thing will make a sound. Yeah. I mean,
right.
you never believe that would make that sound right there. And the other side, see, it's got a lower pitch.
How about that? They'll be having turkeys rushing in here in a minute.
Yeah,
okay, now Mickey, those over here so these are different styles that you did.
Yeah, this right here. All right, that's one there that's walnut, and all my lids is cedar. I use cedar for about bait. Well, I got one that's walnut, but I used to go ahead and put up the description on the bottom where the wood come from and all that, but it actually takes away from your wood, so I got where I quit doing that, but I just put a date, and that was made on the 7th month of last year.
Right.
I think I made about over 100 of them when I set up and start running.
Right.
I just keep going through them.
And
Yeah.
Was this a hot commodity? Did you have a lot of people buying?
No.
Okay.
I've got them priced up so high I got to the point to where I really got kind of tired of making them.
Right.
So I priced them up to where only a doctor, a lawyer, a judge or something could afford them. So that way I didn't have to work myself. But I still got them on my website. But I was selling them up to $300, and I reduced the price down. I said, well, maybe I can go ahead and get rid of some of them. But there's so much competition in there. There's thousands of these people making calls.
But that is a very intricate.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
And
I'm
you can see,
totally impressed.
Yeah, and a little turkey track medallion there that goes in there. And this particular wood here, I didn't know what it was. I had bought it, that wood blanks, thinking it was sassafras. But when I started cutting it, it was real hard. And you see, it's kind of like lace, kind of lace wood.
Yeah.
But actually, a friend of mine in Kentucky, I sent him some pictures of it. I said, I don't know what kind of wood this is. You know what kind of wood it turned out to be? Sycamore.
Wow.
Sycamore.
How about that?
Yeah, and it's got a sound.
Yes, it does.
And then you got one here. Here's walnut on walnut. and that's got a little figure on it. It should have a different sound, higher pitch. The denser of the wood gives a higher pitch sound here. That's higher pitch.
Yes.
And then here's one I've never used before. This is a wood I had bought and never had used it, and I said, well, I'm gonna use it. Osage orange. It's real hard. It's a real hard wood, and it's got a different sound. So it's real low pitch.
How about that?
But
How about that?
but I once in a blue moon I sell one, but I give them away. I give them away.
And you have the care instructions too for how to take care of their wood.
On my website, I shoot them it, and I got a page on there called Call Maintenance. What you do, because these things are not waterproof. If you go in the woods with them, you better have them in a plastic bag or something. Because if you get water on there, they won't sound.
Right.
Yeah, and they do make some synthetic things that will work, in moisture, but these don't. But it's a good contrast, with the cedar with that on it right here.
Right, it sure is.
But
now, what else have you got over there?
Right. After doing the same time I'm making my calls and stuff, I started doing some stuff. Forget my bride said, you need to make something that you make to give out the gifts to the family, and so that's what I started doing several years back. I think the first thing I did was these serving trays. I think I did about 8 of those. But she had been after me since I was doing banjo work, music work. So that's talking about the 70s, early 70s. She'd been after me to she wanted like an heirloom box or something, to jewelry, something that I made that she could keep.
Right.
Well, it only took about close to 50 years. I ended up, she wanted one, and I made her 5, and I made all the kids in the family a box. Every one of them different. There's no two alike. Like a heirloom box or keepsake box. Or in fact, she got her 5 up there in the room, and the kids give them. And so after I did that, I said, well, I want to go ahead and the old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. And it's true with woodworking. Anything. And if you don't do something to keep your skills honed, you'll be doing something that won't be right. And of course, all this stuff, was kind of come about by trial and error, because I didn't have any blueprints, anything to go by. So it's trial and error. You just make and keep doing. And I kept messing with them till I got a sound that was pleasing, and these things do call turkeys in. I've killed turkeys with them.
Wow!
Right, so they do work. And so one of my next projects I gave these out was a napkin holder box, and I think I've made 60 of those.
Okay. Made
60 of them. I gave them out to the family. I sold a few of them, but not many. But most of them was for the family, and so I started putting the date on my stuff and putting serial numbers on them too. And so I gave all the family and but what tickled me, my bride, I call her Joyce, my bride. She said, you need to go ahead and put some napkins in. I said, oh, they'll figure out how to use these things. I said, they're gonna know that's a napkin box. And so come to find out, the people that had the highest education degree, they didn't figure them out. They put medicine bottles in them and all kind of stuff. So when I give them out, I start putting a few napkins in there to let them know that was a napkin holder.
Right.
Yeah. Right. But our preacher was one of them. I kid him about that. And one of them was Joyce's sister. They had at least master's degree. Might even been higher. But we got a good laugh out of that.
Oh yes.
And then I made these trivets. I made the trivets here, and then I used some of that wood perfum that I had left over from my music. In fact, that was left over from my music stuff, and I had ordered some since I went out of business. Now I can't even find that. I got some that was made in Japan, but it's nowhere near as good as what was made in West Germany, or Germany rather.
Yeah.
And that's just a standard old tile. And these are labor intensive. Because in each one of these corners, your end wood don't glue. If you see a picture frame, a lot of times you'll see they have a staple in there or something going into the side. Well, I didn't want that where you could see it.
Right.
But anyway, there's a dowel. You can't see it that goes all the way across at a right angle, a 1/4 inch dowel, and that's labor intensive to do.
Right.
But
Right.
anyway, there's an easier way of doing things. Let me get this out of the way. That's an old swing I made quite a few years back.
And you did.
Yeah, that swing there, was a good one. That was one of Norm Abrams, but that's the jig right here to drill. I mean, let me see if I can find a piece. I think there might be a piece right here. Let's see if I can find one. That's what those pieces look like right here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and that's the little small one I'll show you later. Well, I was trying to put them in a vise. The instruction that came with this gizmo here, you'd have to put this piece in a vise, clamp it down, then take this block here, put it down on there, and then clamp that. I said, man, there's got to be an easier way of doing that. That's just all right. So anyway, I made me a jig using that.
So you designed this as
yeah. All you had to do is put that in there like that. Just stand here and drill. I said, there's an easier way of doing things. If you find them the same way on the other side, just put it in and clamp it.
Right.
And it's no trouble at all.
Right.
So I made the jig to you. I made the jig to jig to jig. Yeah, jig to jig.
Hey,
yeah.
That's pretty creative.
Yeah.
Right there.
And, but I made this. In fact, I'm gonna give y'all one of these on the way out.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you one of these. It's
Oh,
little
right. That'd be nice.
cup holder. And I got them date and signed.
Yes.
And,
wonderful.
And that's a different style of wood perfing there. It's called you can see it's called a stitch. Right there, it's called a stitch. And they used them on instruments back in I say about 34, 35. They went on an instrument Gibson sold for $250. That was a lot of money.
Wow.
They used that particular strip on there.
Right.
So that's some of my later project, but I hadn't decided what I'm gonna do on my next little project because I about run out of. I'll run a project till I run out of materials, but I've got a thing on my computer with showing where my last serial number was, so I'll jump
So
on.
you'll continue. You'll continue
right.
with that.
But these things here, they probably won't even ever get used unless I can get the right kind of wood perfing them used. But
Right.
I've got about probably 90 of those finished calls already. I'll end up giving out. Probably have them when I kick the bucket, you know.
Yeah.
And
Well, let's talk a little bit about your website too,
Right,
Mickey,
okay.
because when we go back, Caroline can show
Right.
like a photo shot of it.
Yeah. Mhm.
But that is you've got recipes.
Right,
You've got
yeah.
he's got how to build all of the things that he does,
Right, yeah,
step-by-step
yeah.
instructions, which is awesome.
Right.
Absolutely awesome.
Right.
I was looking at it the other day, and I'm just thinking,
Right.
and there's so many things that you have made, and
Right. Right.
as you continue,
Yeah. And
as you continue to think and
Yeah.
and decide.
Uh-huh.
But now the swings, that's a pretty big. Probably takes a good while.
Yeah. It on that particular one, most of the swings they just kind of screw together, but that one right there is made with called mortise and tendons. You know, mortise is the hole, and then the tendon sticks in there, and it locks in place. But this one here, this design here was from Norm Abrams. I got the blueprint off of his program, Norm Abrams. But now I didn't like his top part, so I had another set of plans and I used the top.
Okay.
But all these is basically hooked together with that mortise and tendon glued together. And then you got a dowel that goes down in there, it locks it together. It's glued in place.
Okay.
So it won't ever. But I've got the construction like you said on there on the website. In fact, I finally went ahead. People was asking about that. I said, well, I went ahead and put how you make this thing from start to finish on there because. You know, I don't care if anybody uses design or not. You know, it's welcome. I got it on there.
I think that is absolutely wonderful. Your website.
Yeah.
Did you design that?
Well, my son, he used a Photoshop. Well, it's not Photoshop. Man, it's an antique program. I can't think of the name, but now I go on there every day messing with. But way website design, you get a website designer. He'll design a template, and then you can go ahead do what you want to and
And you
change it
add
around.
to
That's
it,
what I did. He
yeah.
started me out on that.
Right.
Made me a template. I think it was in around about 2000. The really internet was really kicking good then.
Right.
But I had all my family photos and everything, all my short stories and everything.
He's got a history on that, Carolina.
Would be on there, and so
Yeah.
he tacked it on the end of his website, which is called mountainbikebill.com. He's into biking big, and so it got to the point to where I was having so much stuff. He said, we just need to go ahead and get you set up for a website, and so that's when we went ahead and got set up for my website.
And
But
it is.
the only thing he did on my website, he designed that banner that shows up on every page.
Right.
And everything else, and I kind of took it from there. It was a learning process like anything else. I've crashed it a couple times, and it was a job. I didn't know that my web hoster, they keep backup, and you can go back maybe 3 or 4 days, a week, a month, or whatever. Of course, now they realize there's some money made in it, and now they want to pay if they have to do a backup.
Right.
But I didn't know that. So I crashed it, and that time, and I had to upload it, and with the connections we had here, it took 13 hours to reload that whole website and everything back in. But I had a good backup. I always back up everything.
Hey,
I don't care what you're doing, back up.
So we're gonna move upstairs and look
Right.
at your dobro,
Right,
and
okay.
then we'll talk about
Right
the book a
shirts
little
last
bit.
night,
Yeah.
and it was in tune then, maybe still be.
So tell us what you're putting on your fingers.
Okay, you just finger picks. That's a thumb pick right here, and that's finger pick. In other words, you know, that type of instrument there, you know, you don't strum it with a regular flat pick like you do a regular guitar or something. Like I said, that was that design I was telling you about. That you know, it's copyrighted design I did, but I think I did 14 of those inlay designs. And a friend of mine in Texas, when I went out of business, I had a dozen of them, and so I let him have them. And one of them, I know he took and put his name up there instead of the porter. I told him, I said, "You're welcome to use it, whatever you want to. I won't use them, but I've only did 2 of these instruments. I did one banjo in 2010, and the guy in Pennsylvania, he's wanting this guitar when he get what I want to play it. He said he wanted first dibs at it.
Right.
And so
It
he got
sounds so good, Mickey.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. When you go to say play something, I go brain dead. But I used to play bluegrass, but I don't play any bluegrass anymore.
Right.
Have you ever heard of a song? I don't even know where I can still play it, called "I'll Be All Smiles Tonight." You ever heard of it?
I haven't.
Well, let's see if I can find something.
So, hey, it doesn't matter. It's anything will be.
Let's see. I know you know this. I know you know that.
Yes, that is beautiful. It has such a beautiful sound. Mickey, before we finish our program this morning, I just want to mention this too.
Okay.
Mickey put this book together. Man, I know there's a lot of work in this. The Singleton Silk Mill, Wadesboro, North Carolina,
right,
circa 1888 to 1927, and he gave the library a copy of it, and it's just wonderfully done with pictures and deeds and all sorts of things in it. And we thank you so much for that. You are an amazing person.
Okay.
We wanted to introduce you to all the people out there that don't know about all the wonderful things that you do.
I was telling somebody, I said, you want to come down and do an interview? He said, what? She said, "What are you taking it here for?" I said, "I don't know." I don't know.
And Caroline and I
yeah,
will suggest to
yeah.
you for your next project, Mickey,
yeah.
that maybe you start working on clocks.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
But thank you
Right.
again
You're
so much.
welcome.
We appreciate you doing
I should
this.
be able to remember Caroline's name because of Bill Hightower.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I hope everyone
Yeah.
has enjoyed our program this morning, and we'll look forward to the next time. Thank you.
Okay, you're sure welcome. You're sure welcome.